Obviously, we have a crack team here of producers and journalists, and some of them cultivate contacts with politicians and politicians' teams. And if you take a call, if Eleanor, for example, the producer of this alleged programme, were to take a call from a politician or a political candidate telling us that there is a story that needs to be shared, offering us an exclusive on that story, and keen for us to provide a platform from which to share a tale of particular interest and intrigue, we would ordinarily give them a fair hearing. We'd be very interested, and that is what happened on LBC yesterday when the team of Susan Hall, the Conservative candidate, got in touch with LBC to reveal that she had been the victim of crime on London Underground, and she was keen to tell the story live on the radio in order, in part, to prove that her rival for the London mayoralty next year has presided over such a decline in standards in the city that the poor woman couldn't even travel on the London Underground safely. And it was to my friend and colleague Nick Ferrari that Susan Hall elected to tell this story earlier today.
You're about to hear from the Conservative mayoral candidate for London, Susan Hall, who has appeared on this programme, how she has been the victim of what she believes a robbery on the London Underground. It took place earlier this week, and here to join me and give us all the details, Susan Hall joins me. Thank you for coming on. Take us through the circumstances of what happened to you. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Nick. Well, I have to tell you I'm the luckiest woman in the world because I've actually got it back. But I just did a normal journey, and same thing with lots of people that are pickpocketed or whatever. You just get to the end of your journey and realise that you don't have your Oyster or your pass or whatever. And that's what happened to me, and I had no idea where it could have gone. I have very, very deep pockets in my winter coat, which I keep it in, or I kept it in. I will never do that again. I'll lock it in my handbag. It wasn't there. I had on one of the trains that I went on, somebody was fiddling around beside me and pushing and shoving, and I'd assumed that that's where it had gone. But when I got home, because in my Oyster Card holder, I've also got my business card, somebody phoned me and said he'd seen somebody sitting on it. Most odd. He'd asked him if it was his. I know, I just don't get it. Asked him if it was his. He said, no, it wasn't. So he said, well, give it to me. So the chap took it and saw my number. So I'm very, very lucky.
Let's just get a couple of details here, if we may. Susan, where did you board the tube and where were you going?
Westminster back to Pinner. So Jubilee line and then onto the Metropolitan line.
What sort of time of day was it?
Oh, this was mid-afternoon.
How crowded was the tube carriage?
Not like it is in the morning. I mean, people were standing, but...
and you get home, presumably, you go to get your oyster, presumably, to get off the train. That's when you go to you get off the train, you get to the barrier, and suddenly you realise you've been robbed.
Well, you realise it's not where it was, and you have no idea what's happened. And I mean, obviously, doing what I do, I know just how bad pickpocketing is on the Underground. It was the highest year ever last year. I was so cross with myself, Nick, because I thought, I should lock these things away in my handbag, and I certainly will in future. And I hope anybody listening does do that. Put it where, with a zipper over the top, so it can't be just taken out of a pocket.
So, Susan, you have your purse back minus what? Your Oyster card and your credit cards and cash? What's gone?
No, I don't keep credit cards in there. It's just literally the Oyster card and a business card, or a couple of business cards I keep in there. Right. So I'm very, very lucky, unlike many others.
So the Oyster card's gone and your cash has gone?
No, the Oyster card was still in there.
Oh, you've got everything.
I only keep the Oyster card in there. I see.
And the cash was still in there?
There was some cash in there, and that was still there.
So this is all credit to the bloke who saw what was going on and said, "Oi, is that your purse?" or whatever.
Well, he saw it. I wasn't there.
No, of course.
So the answer is I have no idea.
Okay.
I was very lucky. The British Transport Police phoned me last night, and I explained to them, because I was wading through their forms to try and report it when this very kind member of the public phoned. But
what does this mean for crime? Now, let's put this into a political aspect. What does this mean for crime for the regular Londoner trying to go about his or her job, trying to ride the Underground or the bus or indeed an overground train? And what does it mean for what you might bring to the dynamic were you to be successful next year?
Well, we've got to look at it. In Sadiq Khan's London, thefts are up 31%, robberies are up 58%. Last year was the highest year for pickpocketing on the underground. So I'd say to your listeners, please, please just make sure you keep everything very safe. I was furious with myself that it had gone because, I should lock these things away. But
the Mayor's office blames the Conservative government. They say that the police cuts hit London harder than any other parts of the UK and that they need more officers and more funding as a result of Conservative cuts. Susan Hall.
Right. Well, I will say to you, the government gave them money for extra police officers, and the Metropolitan Police have had to give them back £60 million because they didn't recruit those officers. So it's very easy for Sadiq Khan to blame the government. The truth is the government gave the money for more officers and they didn't recruit them. So they've had to give the money back. There's still more police officers on our streets in London or employed by the Met than we've ever had before. Clearly, things are going very, very wrong in Sadiq Khan's London. We need to address crime as a number one subject, to be honest.
I apologise for not preceding that with a proper trigger warning. If you have been a victim of lost property that was subsequently returned to you completely intact as a consequence of both public-minded fellow citizens and the British Transport Police, then I can only imagine the flashbacks from which you will currently be suffering. So let's just run through the details of what we just heard. Susan Hall, the Conservative candidate for London Mayor, her Oyster Card holder, which contained some cash and some business cards, fell out of her pocket while she was on the train, and the bloke who sat subsequently in the chair was sitting on her Oyster Card holder. Someone else on the train noticed this and said, "Excuse me, do you notice that you're sitting on an Oyster Card holder?" To which the chap replied, "Gosh, no." And the other fellow said, "Well, give it to me and I'll hand it into lost property." So he did. It still had all the money in it, still had the Oyster Card in it, so if you wanted to steal a trip to Crystal Palace and back, you could have done. I suppose there's a slim possibility that she had encountered the world's worst pickpocketer who pickpockets and then left his spoils, his pickings, if you prefer, on full display to everybody else in public, even after his victim had left the carriage in question. But I don't think there's much mileage in that one. So what happened instead was it was then handed in to the British Transport Police, who found the phone number of the victim of Good Samaritanism and rang her up and told her. So that would be the point normally when you might let people know that possibly this isn't a story that you're going to come on the radio to talk about as evidence of all the criminality over which Sadiq Khan has presided as Mayor of London. But you noticed in the first moment, it's not often I find myself feeling sorry for Nick. But on this, because he certainly doesn't need my sympathy. But at the first moment, it could happen to any of us. You set up the interview and go, "So you are a victim of crime." To which the response is, well, either she's too silly to realise what she's been a victim of, which is public-spirited citizenship and effective policing, or she somehow thinks that she was pickpocketed, but she's got every single thing that was taken back. And that, I mean, is, in my view, one of the most wonderful things I have ever heard on the radio, and I think it would have been wrong of me not to share it with you. They're all trending as well, inevitably, on social media. So it fell out of her pocket. Babs is quick on the uptake. James, the only reason she lost her oyster is it fell out of her pocket. It was not stolen. She dropped it. She's pulling a fast one, if you ask me. Quite a few of you are wondering about what she might ingest as part of her leisure time habits. That is clearly not a path we can go down on this programme. And well, actually, quite a lot of you are doing that. And Jenny is very graciously admitting that, "Oh, James, you got me. I can't believe it."